All right, we are on live. We're on live. Good
Hey,
evening.
good
Hey, sis.
evening.
Good evening. Welcome everyone. Today's Wednesday. I know I usually go live on Tuesday evenings, but there's a lot been happening, and I went live last night to talk about a completely, about a different topic around an event that I'll be having on Friday. I'll participate in on Friday evening. Let me go to the comments here. So if anybody, well, let me go continue what I was saying. So yes, Friday evening I'm going to be doing a fashion show. So my mindset has been on that for the past couple of days, past 2 weeks actually. But I've been having a lot of conversations with people around what has been happening with our dear friend, Ye, right? And I thought, you know what, let me jump on and have a conversation and explore this topic and how is it that we should move forward on this topic in this conversation. So before we move forward, I would love to introduce my guest this evening, Sister Area Nicole. I will start off with having her say a little bit about herself. And then we'll talk about why is it that, I asked her to join me on this important conversation. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you for having me on. It's good to be on with my sister. My name is Erin Nicole, and I am a mother. I'm a wife. I am a member of an organization, Phoenix Local Organizing Committee, out here in Phoenix. I'm doing community work. I'm passionate about culture. I'm an artist myself, and one of the things I work in is helping to eradicate exploitation within arts and culture. So, in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the hip hop Fridays?
Oh yeah, we
Yes,
can talk about that for
yes, because I'm
sure.
going to ask you to go into that, right?
Okay.
She's an artist, but she's so much more than that, right? She's very, very passionate about how we can use arts and culture, right, to elevate the community, elevate the culture, and inspire others.
Yes.
And so, through the local organizing committee, an organization that we're both a part of, a member of, she is the head of the Ministry of Arts and Culture, and they have a monthly
Monthly,
event.
yep.
I should know this monthly event. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's the Lock Tiny Cafe or LOC Tiny Cafe. That's every month. It includes hip hop and poetry, storytelling, our in house DJ. We got the smoothies. I'm sounding like I'm on the radio station getting ready to. But no, so yeah, it was created as a place for conscious artists to come and vibe and, have a good, wholesome time, kick knowledge. And we're right in the bookstore. So we got books everywhere, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
so, yeah,
yes,
it's just
yes.
a nice place to come and vibe. That's monthly, every last Friday of the month.
Every last Friday of the month is the Tiny Cafe. I know the first one I missed the second one, but the first one was definitely a vibe. Absolutely loved it. Loved the
Thank you.
energy.
Yeah.
It's definitely a space for creatives, for those who have a true love and passion for hip
Absolutely.
hop and the culture, and want to be in that space with like-minded people. And so, if this is something that you'd be interested in being a part of and attending, follow her page, Sister Arian Nicole, the Phoenix Local Organizing Committee page. They will be sharing information on the next one.
And
So when it's
grassroots too. You can follow
and
grassroots too.
grassroots
Yeah.
page. Yes, grassroots page. I feel so we need to start sharing that. I don't think we've been really sharing it. I think
The first one, I
the
think.
first one is
Yeah.
shared it.
Hmm.
Okay. We need to do a better job doing that. So when is the next one?
December 30th.
December
Hmm.
30th is the next one. And I know I'll make a commitment to share that also because I really do appreciate what it is, the mission for the Tiny Cafe series.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So now we're going to kind of get into our topic, but I want you to share a little bit about your history and the work that you've done in the music industry, and as an artist, just to give the audience a little bit of insight as to, your background.
Okay. Um, well, as with many of us as artists, we start off young in age. I was attracted to, hip hop culture and music and writing um, as a young girl. Um, and I ended up performing or opening up for some of the artists that I looked up to, which was pretty amazing. Like I opened up for Rakim,
Mm.
KRS-One. They impact the culture, in a great way. Raheem Devon. Um, and yeah, so I've just been on the journey. I've seen the impact of music, like on my
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I seen what it could do for us,
Yeah.
in terms of like not necessarily taking us out of reality, but helping us deal with our reality. I seen the
Yes.
power of music, and I said,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I want to get involved in this,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, from the medicinal aspect,
Yeah.
and so I also see it as an opportunity to really, put a message in the music and help,
And help. And help heal.
help heal.
Help heal. Because my introduction to hip hop, so growing up back home, you hear some hip hop music, was not very familiar with the artists and the founders, and those really played a big role in creating the culture. But I've come to learn how much of an impact hip hop is for the community here. And it was basically, the message
Hmm.
um, from the community about what's happening within the community, right? But then, we've all seen that evolve and change um, to the point
Absolutely.
where people would say, well, it's not the music that raised you, right? It's the parents. I don't know if you've heard that argument.
I've heard that.
You
I've heard
know,
that.
it's the
Uh-huh.
parents who's supposed to play a bigger role in inspiring the children. So to hear you, one group saying, "Oh yeah, I love these artists. They're
Hmm.
so amazing in how they've impacted culture," and then the flip side is we can accept the nonsense because it's really the parents who should be raising children.
And this can turn really deep real fast,
Okay,
right?
I like deep. I like deep. I like deep.
But first, I want to say I do have some industry experience. I was in a songwriters network, so
Ah,
I, worked with different songwriters. So I got
yes,
the opportunity to see the ghostwriting side, in
yeah.
music, and have executives come in and call for different writers to write for a certain artist to see that process.
Mm,
Um, I've seen a person who is very unlikely that will probably, blow your mind. I'm not going to put it out there right now. Who was very unlikely, who contributed to a hip hop record back in the day, like no hip hop persona, no touch with the hood, no nothing. You know what I mean?
I
And
still
so
had the ability to have
to
some influence.
have
Yeah.
absolutely,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so absolutely, and so to go back into what you were saying, remind me a bit.
Not the fact that we make the argument of how impactful and influential hip hop is, but then the
Yes.
flip side is when we're talking about how negative it can be and the effect and the violence and all that. There's a we shouldn't allow us to use that to influence our children. Or should be the parents be more involved? And I listen to gangster rap and I don't want to go shoot people, right? So how do you have both happening at the same time?
I would
Can
say
you have both happening at the same time?
I would say that we have, in this setting, we know America is a corporation,
Yeah.
right? So we know that the music business is a corporation,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have science and art, to marketing to get people to do what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would say this: we can go and research how gangster rap became a thing in our community.
Mm-hmm.
One of the members of a huge group, Bone Thugs and Harmony. You know Bone?
Yes.
Bone?
Yes. I'm familiar.
That one. He was speaking on how he was in attendance on the executive side at a private meeting.
Yeah.
Where they had to sign a confidentiality agreement before they went into the meeting. Him and a few other black artists, just a small group of black artists, artists and executives. And when they found out they had to sign a confidentiality agreement, they were like, well, "What is this? Like, what is this?"
Yeah.
This is early, right?
Yeah.
90s, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they got in,
yeah.
There was a man. He only said his first name. He didn't give no information about him, his background.
Yeah.
Like put it like this: "Hey, my name is Rick," right, or something like that.
Yeah.
And da 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 da. And they proceeded to unfold or unveil a plan that the music industry or the executives were going to be getting involved in the prison industrial complex.
Oh.
Stock rise, you know what I mean? Investment wise.
Okay.
They needed to tell the executives that the executives need to get the artists to write music that will
funnel, like serve as a funnel to
fund the prisons,
fund,
to pack
oh,
the
to
prisons.
fund, oh,
to pack
yeah,
the
yeah,
prisons.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, wow.
And so, as nefarious as that sounds, one of the brothers, they was like, "Are you serious?" He was escorted out at gunpoint.
The brother who responded in
Yeah,
that
like
way.
what the?
Yeah.
Like, are
That's,
y'all serious?
yeah.
And he was escorted out. And the brother who was telling the story, he ended up being escorted out too because he was, involved, like trying to stop it or whatever. And the brother, a black man who invited him there, he asked him. He said, "How could you be a part of something like this?"
Exactly.
And the man, he said, "Look, it's deeper. It's bigger than music. This is business. This is investment. This is bigger than the music industry."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm saying all of that to say that that's really deep, right? To know that our artists were a part of a conspiracy to fill the prisons. And the brother who invited them later ended up exiting, getting out of the music business because he said they really made it happen.
Yeah.
And that's on your conscience.
Yeah.
So like I said, like that's heavy for me.
Yeah.
And
So they were really successful with their plans, right? To use, well, is it really to use music to grow the prison system? Or I guess it goes hand in hand because I was thinking about stocks. Like if you're investing in the prison system, then obviously you want to be successful, and that means more prisons, more prisoners, and that growth in that area.
Getting paid per body.
Yeah. How do you think? How do you think stories like that? What difference does it make? Right, knowing, right? What does that change? And then that will go into the larger conversation.
I think it takes away the myth, or it takes away a lot of illusion.
Yeah.
That when we're assigned to these big contracts, or we have these fancy cars and all of this, that everything is all good.
Yeah.
It's like, you knock down a prop, and the set falls down. You're like, okay, what's really going on? Are you genuinely, speaking from the heart?
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Or are you pitching me a product to get me to do something?
To do exactly. And so we're not even realizing how much we are being influenced, right? So we just think that it's an entertainment and we're being entertained, not realizing the impact that culture, the music is really having on our mindsets and the minds of our children.
It's like, okay, you're being conditioned, right? Now you're creating, you're influencing me.
Yeah.
How
we see ourselves, how we see our community,
how I interact with my
community. Yes.
And the violence increases, right? Because I remember even my husband, he said, one of the groups, NWA, niggas with attitude.
Yeah.
When they heard, read these Nikes and all this and stuff, they went out and did it, stomping people. You know what I'm saying? It was a whole culture that was really driven into, our young black men.
Yeah.
And so when we look at that and we say, wow, you really made it popular to kill my brother.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, a little bit of a segue. All right.
Okay.
So, a little bit of a segue, but it's connected. We're speaking about violence. We'll touch on violence for a second. So, I don't say this proudly, but I do follow Shade Room, right? So I get my news.
I know about Shade Room.
Right? Yeah. I get some information from the Shade Room, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sadly, right, there was a post that they posted today, or maybe a few days ago, but I saw it today, of a young man, 22-year-old young man, who he picked up his children, two children from the mother, a boy and a girl, right, and only returned the boy. And they found the absolutely, like, I think it was, she's like a 3-4 month old baby or a year old in a river somewhere, body in a river somewhere, right? And so I'm looking at the comments because I like to read the comments just to get a sense of the mindset. And so I'm reading the comments, and of course, the majority of women responding, "This is outrageous, this is ridiculous. How could a man do this to their child, blah, blah, blah." Kid you not, the men who do choose to respond, it's like, yes, because, it's somehow blaming the single mother, right? For blaming the woman, saying, well, the mother should have chosen a better man.
Okay.
Right? And this is what happens when a man can't handle his emotions because he's raised by a single mother, right? Wow. And so there's a common narrative that you see way too often in this, social media contention between the male and the female. There's this consistent blame on, the fault that because the man was raised in a single parent home. I don't know if you've heard that the majority of men in prison are, a lot of them were raised in single parent homes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So is it, how does culture and the influence of
Mm-hmm.
culture and gangster rap and the violence in the communities and the streets, how is that connected, where, connected to that narrative of the single mother, right? I'm not from that
Yeah.
environment, so
Right.
how do we put that, all those factors, how do they work together?
Well, when we look at the dynamic of us striving or attempting to survive, right? And I grew up in the projects,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
My mother, I grew up in a single parent home.
Okay.
Home where she
Yeah.
would lose her benefits. I
Yeah.
remember those visits.
Yeah.
That can be added into the pot. You can also add the crack era into the pot. That
Yes.
decimated,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
community.
The drugs. Yeah.
Um, and then still the desensitizing, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
being in this country and nation that glorifies violence
Violence.
and
Yeah.
you know, I, I get it. There's a lot of pressure, on our brothers, but there's also I don't know the situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's mental illness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Being in an unjust country, did you know injustice actually causes mental imbalance? When you
Mm.
can't get justice,
Yeah. Yeah.
it could drive you mad,
Can, yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Not to mention all of these other side effects from these new drugs, we
You
take
don't know
them.
how these
It's
drugs are.
it's a
Yeah.
pot of mess, you know what
Yeah.
I
It could be
mean?
anything. Could
And
be anything.
so, but to shift the blame always on, the woman, we get nowhere.
Yeah.
We get nowhere.
Yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't.
It takes both.
Well, exactly.
But to
Exactly.
answer, your question, those are dynamics,
Yeah.
that we really have to deal with. And
Yeah.
then there's a whole hand behind those dynamics, right? We'll
Which we'll get into
some
next.
study, right, right.
Which we'll get
So,
into next. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but that's sad.
Yeah,
It's
it
really
was
sad.
it's so sad. It was so sad. And it's just, instead of us having a conversation like, okay, how can we work as a community to, deal with these and face these these cases in a helpful and productive way. It's all about, it's your fault and it's your fault. And that's, we're part of a larger society that triggers these kind of things.
Mhm.
So it's, yeah, that was really troubling me today.
Yeah.
So I want to let's segue into the topic at hand, right? Now, our favorite celebrity, as of now, for now, has been making some comments, right? And it started with a tweet that he made a couple of weeks ago, and that resulted in significant black backlash from corporate America, the media, and it affected the contracts that he's had with these large brands, right?
Mhm.
And this, people are triggered because and upset because the comment he made seems to be targeting a particular group of people,
Mhm.
and we know who the group of people are, right? And so there are a series of responses we're seeing, right? We're seeing this response from corporate America, from the media, and then from our community,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so for me, it's one, there are a few things happening here, right? What is the real issue at hand? Like, what is it that this individual is really saying? What is he talking about? Is it just that we should be just upset that he makes these comments that targets a particular group, and we should just get upset and dismiss him and move on with our lives? Or should we challenge ourselves to dig deeper? What's your approach to, how have you been responding to what's happening?
Um, I believe that whether it is our brother, Kanye West or Kyrie Irving,
Mm-hmm. Because we should
um,
mention him too.
yeah,
Yes.
it'll be someone else, right? If
Yeah.
they decide, right, to speak out. We've been dealing with oppression. We know that everybody can agree. We've been dealing with turmoil, oppression, exploitation ever since we set foot on these shores. So what I do when I looked at the situation, I knew that he was going up against a very powerful
Yeah.
entity. That was number one. And as the controversy continued, I said, this is bigger than him. It's really bigger than Ye. He just is very outspoken.
Exactly.
We know that, right?
Exactly. And has a platform to support.
He
Yes.
has a platform.
He has a platform.
One thing too I want to point out is that in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we're taught to settle on the best part.
Mm-hmm.
Because the poor parts we can't really draw anything from, right? We settle on the best part. And one of the things I saw that was a benefit was a lot of youth was looking into historical facts all over social media. So for me, the bigger issue at hand is how do we connect the people who don't really know our history, how we got to be where we are.
Yeah.
And we haven't had any other hip hop celebrity or something really deal with that issue in the way that he has.
Yeah.
So when I seen that, I saw it as a something that we can take.
Yeah.
Some jewels that we can get from it.
Yeah.
So
what is the issue? Some people just really don't know what the real issue is. What is it that Kanye West is speaking to that that deserves our attention?
He's speaking on. he's speaking on. He's giving a face to they.
Yeah.
When we have these conversations and we say, because they always trying to, or they oppose. Now we're heading to like names.
Who are these people?
And faces.
Yes.
Right. And so that's one of the things I think that, we can look at because, I've been studying, and a big issue we have as a people is that there has been horrendous historical things that have happened that has placed us in the condition that we're in. And that force is still at play in like what I presented earlier when we talk about a meeting. You got to start rapping like this. Who are you? And you got a gun? Business interest. The business interest of slavery is the same as the business interest of the music industry. They're all connected.
It's all connected. All connected.
And so if I go into this, like there's something in this country that happened in 1877. Mm-hmm. It was called the Great Compromise or the Great Betrayal.
Okay.
So when Abraham Lincoln, the Civil War and everything, was going on, and Abraham Lincoln was voted in 1860, and he decided not to expand slavery towards the West.
Yes.
That's what the whole fight was over. He decided not to, and then he also signed the, Emancipation Proclamation, 1863, and then after that, started, ushering in like the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment. Everybody's not happy about that. Right. And so when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, you had them using loopholes. Okay. So the 13th Amendment, that was, you are free, right, to go, except you commit a crime, then you're put back into slavery. Well, they exercised the hell out of that loophole, putting people back in. That was the Jim Crow and the black, codes or slave codes, right? Yeah. They were doing, all of that. And so these same entities, that created, the codes and even the Ku Klux Klan. So when I'm saying, the they, it's all connected throughout history. And so they got rich from the cotton, rich from our suffering in the Mississippi Delta. And it's so interesting because the Mississippi Delta, you think about the blues and the spirituals and all that. This is, hip hop was, birthed out of all these elements, our cry and our pain.
All of that.
Who's making money now today off of hip hop? Our cry and our pain, right? So he is a hip hop artist. He's dealing with them. He's seeing shady business practices. He may not be the most articulate. Yeah. He speaks how he speaks, right? And so that's why I say settle on the best part, because me understanding, and a lot of us who are watching or may watch this later, we know everything ain't, cool and kosher, within these industries. But when we think about it, we have one thing we need to understand is that the same entities that was over the slave trade is the same over the music industry and our culture. It's business. Our economic strength has been broken because when we were emancipated, and you turn around, what was it? What was it? The Great Compromise was in 1877. So white folks was fighting each other because there was a period called Reconstruction,
Yep.
right?
Period.
So during that Reconstruction period, they're fighting, and these codes and stuff, are happening. And the Great Compromise included the Democratic governor Tilden, and then there was the Republican. His name was Hayes, and the black states voted for Hayes.
When black states.
When I say black states, I mean like South Carolina,
Okay.
In the South.
Okay.
The black vote.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
The black vote.
Yeah.
Put Hayes in front.
Mm.
And till then, he was supported by the Democratic Party. They wanted that each state to have its own power structure.
Yeah.
Like not a centralized government. Hayes didn't really either. He was promising to keep state power, but anyway, what happened was that they didn't want to recognize Hayes' votes because it was black votes, right? And so the Democratic Party, they was going to filibuster. They were like, "Oh, we counting forever and ever and ever." And if they didn't, make the deadline of May, which they were supposed to be counting until May, then Hayes would, lose and whatnot. And there was an environment in the country where they were saying children or death. Like, we're going to fight again. This civil war going to be going to popping again. And so, anyway, the compromise was this. Hayes, they met in the Wormley Hotel, February 26, 1877. And both parties, they came together secretly. It was, revealed later. But Hayes agreed. He said, okay, you guys give me these electoral votes or whatnot. I'll remove the troops that are protecting the black people in these southern states. And then I'll also, let you guys, build your railroads and all these kind of things, which we just gonna do. And, in turn for you just going on ahead, let me get the presidency. They agreed. There was a person from this community that we're talking about who was a spokesperson who went and shared that deal with Congress to persuade them to make us a permanent underclass in the country. So it's like you're emancipated, right? 1865 by 1877.
Back in the same condition.
Back in the same
Back in
condition.
the same condition.
And then we became sharecroppers. And so one of those southern states, right, who were betrayed by Hayes, our black vote betrayed, was Louisiana. My people come from Louisiana. My grandfather, my mother's father. So I am one generation away from Jim Crow because I have a picture of him sharecropping in Louisiana.
Not that long ago.
That's my mother's father.
Yeah, not that long ago.
So when I look at, that scenario, my blood, and I see what Kanye is trying to address, and as best as he can, I have a different lens and a different view, and I know it's tied to a different picture, and it's actually tied to, our liberation. We have to know what we're dealing with. Then we can collectively come together and say, this is what we have on the table. We need to know these facts, this history, and let's,
I so appreciate. Thank you for that history. Thank you, Brother Trimikas. He said good history too. I so appreciate that. That historical. I want to say narrative, but the history that you shared with us, right? Because it puts us in perspective of where we at, where we came from. And I think when things happen, we do not look at the bigger picture, right? We do not connect the dots. I think we're so emotional as a people. We just react. We just react. And so, when these comments are being made, the media will do what the media do, right? And they will push out what it is they think it's really important to them, and
Right.
because we feed off of that, we're reacting out to that. And so
Right.
a lot of people I'm asking is like, have you actually listened to his interviews? Like, why do you think he's speaking? Is he speaking just because he has nothing else to say and just wants to talk about this particular group of
Mm-hmm.
people?
Mm-hmm.
What really is he trying to say? Do you know
Right.
what really he's trying to say? And I don't think as a people we take enough time to really listen and pay attention to what's happening,
Right.
or else we'll be able to dig deeper and not react and get emotional, you
Yes.
know? And I think that's where we fall short. Um, and that leads to us becoming missing the point altogether.
Do you know?
Missing the point altogether.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. I was just reading like there was a particular rabbi who quoted that they purposely keep us on the level where we are reacting emotionally,
Mm,
right? So, not they don't induce logical thought, critical thinking, right? Through
yeah,
the entertainment industry. So
yeah,
everything they get us is just to, invoke emotion. So we're
yeah,
used to, yeah, but
yeah,
we don't even have time to sit and research and study because the next show is coming on or
yeah.
next, it's we are submerged in
Mm,
sport and play to a
yeah,
fault.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So,
yeah. So I'm thinking about the next direction because we did we really talk about his, so his complaints really sheds light, right,
yeah.
on the I want the in not in the problems with the contracts. Let's talk about
Oh,
that,
yeah.
right? Let's dig deep into what the issue really is, and the fact that there's so many other celebrities who have voiced,
Hmm.
right,
Right.
their discontent, and their frustrations with the
Hmm.
industry, how
Hmm.
we reacted if we did or did not, right? What were our reactions, and what is different with Kanye West?
Um,
So, yeah. So what's really the issue that he's bringing to the surface? And I know you touched on it a little bit more.
right, because we had Michael
Michael Jackson.
attempting to
Yes.
speak on it.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing a clip of him. The audience was just screaming, "Let me love you, Michael." He's like, "Okay, but listen,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I was like, "Wow, he was trying to tell us back
Trying to
then,
tell. Yeah.
right?" And then Prince, he wrote "Slave," across his face because the contracts, are so they were made to rob you
Mm,
of your royalties. A lot of our famous entertainers died broke.
yeah.
You can't imagine being like a worldwide global name or sensation, and your children have to go, clock in at some rinky-dink factory,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so that was happening, all too often. But then there's this new thing now where they will give you millions. They give you millions,
Mhm.
but you can't speak, right? Or your contracts will be terminated, all these kind of things. So it's like on a leash. You have all these millions, right? And you get paid in increments or whatever. You don't have it all, but you get paid in increments. And so what Kanye did, what made him different was that he had the contracts on the table and spoke anyway. So that put a wrench in the game. They're like, okay, dude,
Yeah.
So that's to answer
he
your
he wasn't
question.
he wasn't afraid of the ramification, right? He wasn't afraid of what would have resulted, you know, resulted from him speaking out
Hmm.
against what it is he thinks is being unfair, right?
Absolutely.
But there
Hmm.
are others who did. There
Facts.
are others who did, and they were treated harshly, right?
I think I looked at that situation, and I think to the degree that Kanye was so fearless, you know, being fearless can put fear into the person
Mm.
that you're, being
You speak,
taunted by.
you're speaking out against.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
What can we do? What can you do with someone who isn't afraid?
yeah.
Now let's go into what they were trying to do. His nutritionist threatened to have him sent to the loony bin, right?
Yeah.
What kind of nutritionist? I don't know.
His
You have a
trainer apparently this says
this trainer, right? Trainer.
right?
I think he served as a nutritionist too as
Okay.
well. But his
Oh, okay.
trainer,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Threatening him to send him back to be hospitalized, medicated.
right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
a lot of us may not know that in the 1920s that happened with a great black famous entertainer named Paul Robeson.
That happened to Paul Robertson?
Happened to Paul Robeson, not his trainer, but per se, it was the government. So you can look
Oh,
into his Freedom of Information Act.
okay.
He had the largest FBI file of any black entertainer.
Paul Robertson.
Paul Robeson, the largest file. He was treated, with the MK Ultra, the CIA, shock therapy. He was tortured.
Really?
Mhm.
Based on what? What did he? Based on his activism?
Communism, back in that time,
Yeah. So
was the
they
trigger
use
word.
that. Okay. Okay.
Communism. And he made a lot of friends in Russia. So, what I'm saying, this is
Yeah.
overseas.
Yeah.
And he took the plight of what we were dealing with lynching
Yeah.
internationally.
Mm-hmm.
And they like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
And so he received some of the worst treatment out of any entertainer.
Mm.
And so when I seen what with Kanye and the threatening and the medication, all this kind of stuff, it instantly reminded me of Paul.
Yeah.
So I'm like again, it all connects.
So I am looking at Phil's comment, being treated like an employee. That's a nice word you're using. It's not an employee, right? Because if you're in a contractual agreement, right, a relationship, an arrangement where you do not have the freedom to use your voice and the talents as you feel free, as you feel, or you are not able to speak out on things that are important to you in your
Mhm.
community, this is beyond an employee, right? This is modern day, and I will use the word bondage, right?
Mhm.
And this and
Absolutely.
this goes back to the comment that Kanye West made about him saying, making the statement that we are willing. What did he say about the slavery comment? Um, that we're.
I would say this. TMZ made a headline that said Kanye West. What? Somebody help us in the comment where he was saying that slavery is a choice.
Slavery is a choice. And
He never said those
he
words.
did not say those words, right? It was part of a larger context.
Right.
He was speaking of the fact that there are things that we do that encourages and what it was, yeah, it encourages of the condition that we're in as a people, and we should take a stand and do certain things so that we take ourselves out of these out of the condition that we're in that leaves us bound in whatever bondage that we're in.
Absolutely.
And he is, to me, based on my observation, taking actions, right, in his own way, what he
Right.
can do to remove that bind that he's
Right.
in, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to speak of that.
They have to. They have to treat them the way that they're treating them in the and Kyrie is another example.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because you have to make an example, like if you step out of line, this is what will happen to you. But it just so happened on Kanye's end, he didn't care about the money part. But with Kyrie, they were working to make an example of him as well. But I think we're in an age where the public is becoming a little bit more aware. You know what I mean? So I was utterly shocked at some things, like when some people wasn't getting it, but then I wasn't on the same, because like who's studying the 1877 compromise?
Yeah,
on that
yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
So I just hope that, we learn to look at the bigger picture and know that all the dots do connect.
They
Like
do.
they do.
They do connect. They do
So.
connect, and it forces us. I think this issue forced us to really open our eyes. It forced me, and even a lot of young people. Like I'm proud. I'm happy to see how many people reacted, right, in support of in support of the things that Kanye West was saying in speaking out against the treatment of these celebrities, because it brings to my attention now, like many of them are stuck in these situations where they're too scared to do something.
And the climate was being created, honestly, of not bloodshed but fighting, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
against the quote unquote field Negro in the house.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
There's
That
that
was
separate.
going
Well, they're
on.
celebrities, right? They got $1 million, whatever.
Right.
That's not our fight. That's their problem. But is that something that we should take on, right? How is it as a community? We hearing them saying, "Hey, it's not what it's made out to be. We do not have the freedom that you guys think we have. What is it that we can do at our level, at this level? Is there any way in which we can show our support apart from just posting on social media? Yeah. No, that's
No,
not.
no, okay.
That's
You know,
yeah.
no, yeah. So you can contribute to certain causes for sure. Um, once if the minister said it like this, he said, it can be both a blessing and a cursing, right?
Yes.
To be, in that situation. Yeah, we're grateful on one end, right? To where we're being afforded a certain life to do what it is that we love,
Mhm.
but at the same time, if you can't do things to civilize or liberate your people, then it's not really worth it,
Yeah,
right?
it's not worth it.
And so I think what it is that we have to learn to do is adopt fearlessness in this hour.
I mean, like okay, like you and I at this level, but how does that
Mm-hmm.
impact or um make changes to, for example, the kind of contracts that these, celebrities are finding getting themselves into? Because that is a change that needs to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is speaking out to, a pattern of these unfair agreements, right? And so, is that a fight that can only be done at that level, or can those of us on the ground who are much more aware and understand what's happening, can we in any way play any role in assisting in that kind of fight? Or we like, look, we don't have millions of dollars, that's not our world, you guys figure it out?
I mean, economic withdrawal is a good prescription, right? The only thing they really respect is their money. They may not respect you as a human being,
Yeah.
but they respect, that money.
Hmm.
And so when we withdraw from the economy, then
Yeah.
they start looking like, okay,
Yeah.
they're serious, because that's what they live by.
Yeah.
White man live by his dollar.
Yeah.
He live by
Yeah.
his dollar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I've seen conversations about people saying, I'm not gonna listen to gangster rap music no more because one of the Migos got shot within the same environment. So everybody was looking at the industry. Then you're looking at, the culture and everything. Then we lose one of the Migos, and everybody's like, man, look, we got to change this, got to do this. So I'm not supporting financially into this, culture anymore.
That's definitely a step, because I've had conversation with someone who's based in Phoenix, is an artist. I'll tell you offline. And so we sat and had a conversation, and we talked about the canceling,
Mhm.
gangster rap, right? And how is it that we can do it in a way in which it's impactful and sends a message? Because yes, if we continue supporting these artists and buying their music and going to their shows and concerts,
Mhm.
well then we are playing a role in this bigger thing,
We
right?
are.
We're playing a role. And so I think maybe as you said, money, that's the language,
Mhm.
that they speak, is definitely a way to send a message to support those in that world who are struggling and trying to get themselves out of it.
Right, right, too. And then the formation of our own industry, man. That's one of the reasons, I'm in the Ministry of Arts and Culture. We want to fund our own and support our artists, right?
Yeah.
And you can contribute, right? And come together and put your expertise to create your own labels. We do that.
Yeah.
But in light of this situation, a lot of times when our attention is on this and we look for the solution, I'm offering, one of the solutions. We have to build our own.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ever going to treat us right. You know what I'm saying? We could keep on, keep hope alive or whatever in it, but I believe it's best that we take, charge of our own destiny. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Rajamika said the artist is just a tool. The industry is the real problem. The industry
mm-hmm.
is the real problem. Totally agree. Totally agree. And so I want to touch a little bit about the most recent comments, right? And so um, he made a comment, right, about Hitler and Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to his entire comment, right? What he said along the lines of, what did he say? There's nothing. I'm gonna hear first your opinion. Did you listen to
I listened
part of the interview where he
they only
actually,
have part where
yes,
he said, yeah.
where he said that part?
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm like, this is funny, but I'm gonna give you my opinion. What are your thoughts on his Nazi Hitler comment?
I think he's attempting to say something, but not getting it across the way
Yes.
that he
Yes.
visualizes
Yes.
it, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I think.
Yeah, okay. 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 I'm gonna tell a little story, right? So those of you, some of you know that I taught middle school, right, for about 3 years.
Mhm.
And what was it? I was an English teacher. I, of course, included history a lot and challenged my students to do their own research.
Mhm.
And so we were talking about the Holocaust. The topic was the Holocaust, and there was a. I'm not quite sure what was the essay that they're researching on, but it was all along the lines of the Holocaust. And in their research of Hitler, right, they raised, one of the students raised their hands like, Miss Sarbo, oh my gosh, did you realize that, Hitler was an artist? And I'm like, an artist? And so they're like, yeah. And so they pulled up their phone and saw these beautiful paintings. So
Mm.
apparently he was in art school.
Mm.
He was in art school, was a talented artist, and they were talking about all these other things that he did. And so they were quite impressed,
Mm.
right? And I was listening to what the comment Kanye West made about Hitler, right?
Okay.
And he's saying, "Hey, you guys are not going to tell me how I should feel about this man, right?
Mm.
There are good things about him. I am not going to hate everybody. I am a lover of people, right? He's not perfect, and he did things that I appreciate and value. Basically, that's what he was saying. And so, listening to Kanye West took me back to what my students brought to my attention about how how he was talented in these other areas, which we don't know. And I've come to realize that there is a picture that's being painted of an individual who's done bad things.
Mhm.
Understandably so, there's no denying, has done bad things, right? And the narrative is being done in a way in which any thoughts or conversations around anything outside of that,
Mm.
right,
I
makes
get
you
that.
seem like you are incredibly on what's the word I'm looking for, um insensitive, right,
Got it.
to
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
to the people who were impacted and affected by this
Right.
individual,
Right. Right.
right?
That's right.
Because he made a comment about appreciating the certain things about him, and it's like, oh my gosh, so he likes Hitler. And I'm thinking about the other Holocaust that happened. Let's think about the other Holocaust that happened. Our Holocaust that happened. How to
Mhm.
respond to those people who've affected us? Like, right? Our ancestors, we talked
Right.
about
Right.
slavery and
Right.
sharecroppers, right?
Right.
They died, millions of them,
Mhm.
right? That was
Mhm.
a Holocaust. How do we respond to those people that have treated us and our ancestors the same way? Do we force people to paint that narrative?
Yeah, we don't have an ADL. Like, you know what I'm saying? They have a defamation league, right? That says that, hey, you better stay away from these subjects, you know. We don't we don't have that, but we don't really have our culture, our history, our narrative, you know what I'm saying, to that degree to preserve. But to go
Oh,
back to, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, well, we don't, I mean, the knowledge, right? Intricacy, like, of
but we
the way
understand
it's
that
taught,
we've
right?
gone
We
through
know
stuff
we're
and
great.
we continue to go through stuff.
We
We
continue.
understand that,
We
right?
continue. But to kind of backtrack, I remember something because the Honorable Ms. Lewis Farrakhan actually had a similar controversial event, right? He mentioned that Hitler was great, say he was a great man. And
Mm,
they was like, what?
mm,
He said, great doesn't mean good.
mm, mm.
You may do great things, but it
Yeah,
doesn't mean good.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
if I line that up, I'm thinking that's where the brother was going. But you
yeah.
have to really understand linguistics and you know what I mean? Great versus good.
Mhm.
And so, but when it comes down to, us and our Holocaust, no, it's not treated the same way.
And whose fault is that, right? And so I'm looking at our community reacting. Oh, right. Look
Yeah.
what he says. Look what he did. Oh my gosh, he's terrible. Blah blah blah. And I'm thinking we're not seeing the nuance of what's going on here, right? The same way we respond to those who were the creators of our Holocaust,
Right.
he's doing the same thing to the creator of their Holocaust, right? We are told to love and forgive and forget and see the humanity in everyone, right?
Mm.
Oh, we are being told, hey, that was our grandparents, right? We had nothing to do with it. And so, get past it and forgive and move
Mm.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so he is also saying, look, he wasn't all evil, right? He was good in his own way. I'm seeing him for what he's done in these things. How is it that, we're responding to that, right? Oh my gosh. And not seeing how I feel like it would be more of a
We
defending the others than ours.
well, if we look at our reality, we do have a history of loving and forgiving others more than we do our own self.
That is so true.
Right?
That is so true.
We will cut each other down in a second.
Exactly.
In a minute. We don't forgive our own, mothers and fathers.
Yes.
You know how it is. But yeah, so there's that dynamic, right? I hate to go into the angle, but we really have a lot of reconditioning to do to start loving ourselves to the degree that we will be like their community and say never again. They make their children watch the Holocaust because they were like, this will never happen again.
Yeah.
You watch this, you understand it.
Yeah.
I think my husband posted today. He was saying, why is it that we, shy away? We don't want to see it anymore. We don't want to, another slave movie or what have you. It's very traumatic. It's traumatic, but it's real. It happened, and it's still happening.
Still happening.
So it's like sensory deprivation almost. Like I just don't want to deal with it, But you have to deal. It ain't gonna go away magically. You have to deal. Mm-hmm. That is one of the things that Kanye brought to the table in the controversy with Kyrie. And Honorable Ms. Louis Farrakhan has been dealing with this, since the 80s, So it's really not new to, the NOI. And they will, broadcast that. They're saying that they echo the sentiments of, Louis Farrakhan or that kind of thing. But I guess to go back to the beginning, what the real issue is that we need to separate. We're gonna separate. This it ain't gonna. This has not been working. We have to how Utah.
Yeah.
I think Utah is its own entity.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that?
And why?
Because they make too much money off of us.
Yeah.
Don't go nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so,
why do you think separation is important?
I think separate. Number one, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that separation was actually more important than prayer. Because you could be praying, but if there's an enemy all around you, your eyes are closed and you're praying. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You got to separate first. Then you can have peace. We don't have peace. Like it's the best and it's really the only solution. We have not had peace since we set our foot here. You know what I mean? And a person that won't, treat you right, won't teach you right, we have not had peace for 400 plus years. No peace. Mm-hmm. Even when we go and we vote and you find out a couple months later something's been revoked or something changed, I'm sad to say that happened here. We was a part of pardon me for forgetting, but it has something to do with the policy change here. We finally got a change, I think after 40 years. Yeah. And I think it was a couple weeks, months later. You could put in a comment if you know, maybe
which policy around.
It had to do with community policing or something.
Okay,
policing.
Okay.
It was something with policing.
Yeah.
Having more control or over that process from the community standpoint.
Yes. Yeah, Bertram is a know about that.
Yes. And they wrote in something new. So you won, and then you came back like, it's changed. Mm-hmm. So, and we've been dealing with that ever since we've gotten the right to vote, around that Reconstruction era. So sad to say, I was watching earlier today, Martin Luther King and 5 or 6 other highly intelligent, distinguished brothers who were in the civil rights movement. and it was 1863 with the emancipation, but they met in 1963.
Oh, I'm like, wait, what?
Damn! Oh. No, 1963.
Yeah, yeah.
And their cry was that they said, we've been doing this, we've been at this for 100 years. Now they're all gone. Here we are, still talking about slavery, but by another name, right? Just changes.
Yeah.
Another name. Chattel slavery to the Jim Crow, to the music industries, to mortgage loans. We can get into loans. Did you know the root word of mortgage is debt? You never really getting out of these payments. And it's loan sharking. Yeah. And so having a separate state and territory, on the back page of the final call, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that, we would like a few states of our own, and for you to supply us with what we need for 20 to 25 years. We made you rich.
And continue to do so. By
And we
the looks of it.
continue to do so.
Continue to do
And
so.
so, reparations is not, a joke, or, something where, yay, we just want a little check. It's real reparation, because you messed us up for generations. Like I'm heated by the Jim Crow era and all these kind of things, and the bombing of Black Wall Street. And when you go and uncover the history, you find out it's by the same freaking people throughout history. Who discovered the Ku Klux Klan? It was them. Who went and who were we rioting against? This class. Over and over and over. And then you have the average poor white, American. They didn't have as much influence, right? Because they weren't involved in the banking. They didn't have the upper hand in finance the way their big brother did. So, and you'll find that throughout history, we were always in the middle, right? We're always the scapegoat. Everybody pays attention to the black man is the problem. Not the 1%, and not even the racist white folk who just hate us, but they ain't got no fang like they big brother to really fight us with. Everything is on us. That's why I'm not excited when we get on media and piece apart or break apart our brother, because again, it's the scapegoat. Look at Kanye.
Yeah.
What about them?
Yeah.
No, exactly. No.
Exactly.
Look at Kanye.
And it's like we are making their fight our fight. I'm like,
that's the trick.
Who's really the biggest source of our problem right now? Because Kanye's T-shirt really not bothering me, right? Is it triggering? Yes. It's Kanye West. Tell me when he has not done anything artistic that was triggering, right? Is it wrong? Yes, right? But is that something what we should be using our energies over and completely dismissing it, right?
Right.
It's not saying I'm saying that I approve of it, right?
Right.
It really is not helpful in any way,
right?
Mm-hmm. But what is really the biggest issue?
What's the real issue?
What's the real issue at this time? And it's really not his T-shirt.
Right, when you say that, because again, when you're trying to make a statement, when you know something's wrong and you're doing this and you're doing that and you're making these bold statements and you're being, controversial, because that's the power that we have as artists, right? To be controversial.
And he likes that.
He loves that.
Loves the controversy.
So okay, everybody has a family member that like, oh, boy, what you stop talking? You talking? We have that. But at the end of the day, it's my prayer, to see us really organize around the real issue. Like you said, when we're making their issues ours,
it's exactly.
It keeps us in the same
condition.
So we have to really, look at it and say, okay, how are we doing this? You know what I'm saying? What is it? And in truth, we're taught that every slave wants to be close to his master. Every whatever. I mean, no. Every slave.
Slave. Okay. Well, yes. All right. We do. We are using that term. Yes.
Slave. Okay. What makes a slave?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Servitude. Right. You have to beat someone down mentally to a certain degree to make them subjective to you. So if I feel that you are better in some way, you have more resources in some way, I can't get it on my own. I can't. You. I got to go to you. You say, okay, I'll bring you closer to me.
Yeah, all right. I'll take that.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Okay. A more balanced perspective is you have it. You owe it to me. What you got? Because I know how you got it. That is the attitude that will get justice served, not compromise. We can't compromise anymore. That is the issue. We can't. We have to sit down and we have to say, these are the facts. But you have to have people willing to research those facts and go at it.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
And I think it's not they're not enough of us, right? Like what Baba Amin said, righteous education plus separation equals liberation. Right, Baba Amin? Hey. Right? And I love that, the combination. And education is so important, of course. You know, that will always be our downfall, right? Is a and for me, I've had this conversation with my family that I've intentionally chosen to separate myself from the noise, from the stuff, right? So that my mind is clear,
Yes.
right? And I can really be allowed to think and process and use the knowledge and information that is around me, you know, to really see things clearly. And so we're constantly bombarded with all the other noise and the music that's not helpful and all that stuff,
The
right?
food,
The terrible food, right? I do believe at my core all of that influence, you know, the way in which we respond, the way in which we can deal with our condition in a healthy and a productive way. And so, you know, with that physical separation, but also separating in, you know, those areas in our life, you know, can definitely feed us into that slow process of liberation.
Yes.
Right.
And I want to make the point that economics is good, but a fool in this money will soon part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have to have that first step. You have to be spiritually grounded. We'll be just like this capitalistic society if we don't have the right spiritual infrastructure.
Exactly.
And educational infrastructure in place. So money is good, but it has to, you know, what they say, politics without economics is symbol without substance.
Politics without
economics is symbol without substance. But we need, you know, the truth so we can spend wisely, right?
Yeah.
You have to have, you know, the right substance.
Yes.
Not the crooked politics.
I know. And so how I know we kind of touched about how can we help, but you know, with this information that we've shared, you know, what we've talked about, hopefully we've enlightened quite a few of our viewers around, I know, right, around what the real issue is. What do you think should be our next steps, or how do you think we should move forward as a community, as a people? As you know, more things happen, things will continue to happen. And so what do you think are the steps we should take so that we're, you know, a little bit wiser in how we approach and respond?
First, self-improvement is the basis for community development.
Yeah.
Self-improvement. So, you know, taking care of ourselves mentally. You mentioned something. You said, I think that, you know, the diet and what we're being bombarded with plays a role on our mental workings, right? Our capacity to receive information and all that kind of stuff. So first, work, you know, to get ourselves in a better condition, you know, health-wise. But overall, in general, I would love to see us understand that we are only going to be successful if we unite.
Yeah.
We're like a body. We're like, you know, the hip bone disconnected from the femur, and the shoulders are over here, and the cranium is over here. You know, we have to bring it all together, and we can do that, you know, all across this country. But I'm biased as heck. So Phoenix LLC and organizing is really key because we can talk and we can, you know, do rhetoric, pontification, all these kind of things. But we have to learn how to organize ourselves in an effective manner to where now we're working with each other, and we can't work with each other if we don't love.
That is so important.
And if we don't know how to settle our differences,
So important.
have to settle. And that's one reason why we're going back to the Kanye, and we shouldn't beat each other up in public. That's what the minister said. He said, don't beat each other up in public. Even, when we wanted to beat up, some who we consider to be the Uncle Tom or whatever. We ain't even using that phrase no more. But still, who wasn't really
the sambos. I think that's the new politically correct term to
but
use.
This is we should never let the enemy divide us. This is our affair. You did that long enough. So we need to put him in his place. That's number one. Put him in his place. Always know that when you receive news from media sources and things, look carefully into it. Who is it coming from? We take.
Yeah.
Oh, did you know he said slavery is a choice? Then you rewind the interview, man ain't even said it. So we got to learn how to filter. Like, don't just use discernment. And so if we are passionate about getting out of this condition, but Phoenix LOC, organizing, getting our body together as a people, and taking it seriously, because sis, really is the time. Time is on our side. That's why we see a lot of things taking place in the way that they are. Time is on our side now.
It is. And I think the biggest lesson for me, from everything that's been happening, it's a reflection as to how we as a people should be. Right. I honestly, and Russell Simmons said this. I don't know if you saw his little speech that he gave when he's sitting in Bali, talking about how he was able to be successful because that particular group of people provided, which is okay, right? Provided the resources so that our artists can, some of them can be rich and, start these companies and all these brands and all that stuff. And so he says, yes, these people, they're the ones who helped us, took us out of the hood, and give us the means and the ability to elevate to the level we did, right? And probably continue to do so. But the key point that he made that I think was so striking is he said, look, they were a community, they were families, they worked together. Right? They worked together. And I think we need to take that lesson, right? With and seek or strive to attain that level of unification, as you said.
Absolutely.
And we cannot do that without really learning how to love each other, right? And it's not only the unification, but also other people I've come to learn, even in my country, right? We do have terrible issue when it comes to race. It's not black, white, it's Africans and East Indians, right? From India. And they were brought there because of slavery by the British and all that. But they came as indentured servants. But, we do have a terrible issue of race. And in conversations, we realize that we're the same way back home in Guyana, very loving and forgiving, when other people may not be so quick to do so, right? And so we're blinded by this love in our heart. And so how does that help us, right? How does it help us in learning from lessons, being wise in moving forward and navigating this world when we are in a world that is surrounded by people who may not necessarily have the best intentions when it comes to us. And so I think the lesson to be learned here is for us to see how other people respond to the protection of their narrative, to the protection of their story, to the protection of their community and what they hold important. And we do the same, right? Instead of jumping on the bandwagon, be like,
right. No, we have the capability to do the same, right? That we have just been robbed of the knowledge of self. Once we have the knowledge of self, then we know, our potential,
back to knowledge and information.
Back to knowledge and information and education. Like when you take a child and you tell them, like Kanye West's mother, like from what I saw, she made him feel like he was the best thing in the world. So, I mean, he didn't have any kind of mental blocks, right,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
becoming success.
yeah, yeah.
So, take that on the flip side with us, when we know that we are direct descendants from the originator of the heavens and the earth. Not indirect, but direct.
Like if you only knew ourselves, as you
We
said,
knew.
if you only knew.
Yeah. That includes dimensions of the planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the sun is 93 million miles from the earth, and all these actual facts. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like your real estate, your land, just becoming aware that there is something beyond slavery and oppression. They keep us there for a reason.
And that goes back to the Kyrie Irving situation, right? He posted a link, that's all he did, and they penalized him for posting a link about a documentary that spoke to who we are as a people,
Right.
And I think that's a whole other conversation,
Yeah.
that we should have. It's what that means, and it's what's so wrong with with learning about certain things about ourselves. I think
Nothing.
they understand the power, they understand our power, except for us.
We're gonna get there. We are going to get there. It just takes more fearlessness. That's all.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
Yeah, it is.
Fear God alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
God alone. They want to be the God, you know what I'm saying? But they're losing their power. Believe it. Believe it, because the Negroes is out of control right now.
And on that note, it was a good conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. A lot of people a few people inboxed me. So look, minding my own business on Instagram. I posted a post a couple weeks ago about what did I say? Something along the lines of comment Kanye West made and the industry and all that stuff. Somebody jumped into my inbox and went off on me about me being anti-Semitic because I am promoting and supporting certain comments. So, and they identify as part of a community. Yes. Anyway, so I'm like, you know what? This is important, right? Because now it's dividing us because people don't know where to stand, right? People don't know how they should feel, And so I'm like, yeah, we need to do this in a sensible way. But yeah,
I hope conversations like these help. That's why I was like, oh my goodness, yes, I have to say something, because it's a whole lot of people, like you said, we don't know where to stand because we don't know history. Have we looked up the word Semitic?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You just rambling that you're anti.
I was accused of, and I had to block the person eventually because I started sending him stuff and sharing stuff. I'm like, look, this is why, and this is why, and this is why. And basically, I was accused of supporting those who were against that particular group of people, and so I'm like, okay, I'm enough of this conversation. So hopefully this was helpful. Education, knowledge. Hi Shaka. Hey Daniel. Freedom begins with knowing thyself. So very true. Very, very true. Know the ledge so you would not fall off. Yes, very deep. What is the? Oh, do you want to answer that?
My vision. I can't even see.
What is the definition of a Semitic individual?
Look, I ain't afraid to pull out my phone so I can get all of
Everybody, right. I've done it a few times because I've had conversations with people. I'm like, it's right here.
Right here.
It's right here. But I'm gonna have you answer that. Okay. But let's Google the word Semitic, and it's right there. And that's what Kyrie Irving actually brought to our attention. Like, I cannot be anti myself.
Relating to or denoting a family of languages that includes Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic, and certain ancient languages, such as Phoenician, constituting the main subgroup of the Afro-Asiatic family. Afro-Asiatic family, that's Black.
Yep. So, and then this second part relating to those people who speak Semitic languages, especially Hebrew and Arabic, and the documentary that Kyrie, the link he posted, right, is titled Hebrews to Negroes, and really talks about our connection to being Hebrews, right?
Yes.
And so the point he's making is the word Semitic means, Aramaic people are Ethiopians, right? The Afro-Asiatic groups, the Arabic groups, the Hebrews. So really, it's us.
That's the original peoples of the planet.
Yes, it's us, right? And so they have successfully co-opted the word, right, and then punish us, right, for their feeling of being anti us
And
them.
and family too. If you really research, you can there's books at the bookstore that we have, grassroots bookstore. But if you research, you'll find some of their own scholars will admit
Mhm,
that they usurped our birthright
mhm.
and that it's a lie.
It's it's deep.
But it starts in the dictionary. When you anytime you can open up a dictionary and see Semitic means Afro-Asiatic, then you know the
That
question mark should pop up in your
should
mind.
pop up
Like
right away.
so.
Should pop up right.
Hopefully.
All right, knowledge. So the word for today is knowledge. Knowledge of self. Knowledge of self. Well, this was absolutely enjoyable
I enjoyed it.
conversation. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you. I would love to invite you again.
Okay,
I
we can
think
talk
I
about
think yes, yes, yes. I think we should do it again. I hope everyone was able to take something away from the topic, and maybe you in some way know how to move forward in your approach and response to what's happening in our society and what's happening around us. And I look forward to our next conversation. And my commitment is being more consistent. And we'll have this conversation again next week on a different topic. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Feel free to inbox myself or Sister Arian. Let's stick to the topic. And really appreciate having you joining us this evening. Bye, everybody. Peace, peace, peace.